would definitely say this changed my life. It's like the direct reason I got my first job. I think my advice to anyone thinking about it would honestly be just do it. Like, you won't regret it. And if you do, come talk to me. I want to know why. So it was really fun to compare American cheeseburgers to European cheeseburgers. So my name is Matt Curtis. I was originally in the program back in 2015, studying abroad through UW-Stevens Point in northwestern, north central Wisconsin. So I was looking through our study abroad program at all the different locations, and in particular, London stuck out because of the internship exchange program, which was like just a super unique experience because everything else was very, very much like going and taking courses, just very traditional study abroads. And for what I wanted to do specifically, I was very interested in getting to like social media marketing and community management, things like that. And in like basically central Wisconsin and up, there isn't a lot of that present unless you go very corporate, and I was really interested in the agency side of things. So it was cool to be able to get an experience, and the London experience in particular stuck out to me because I could go to a major city basically and have a very direct experience on that field of work. At the time, I was studying public relations specifically, and so when I came abroad here to London, I was working with a company called Digital, a digital marketing agency specializing in like the hospitality industry, so hotels, hostels, restaurants, basically everything across the board in that space. I was doing a little bit of everything. I mean, I really got thrown into the deep end in a great way. There's a small team doing a lot of different things for some really notable clients and some really cool spaces. And so we were doing everything from managing social media accounts to running email newsletters to building out websites, writing up content. Blogging was really big at the time. But yeah, it was a lot of different stuff and like super, super impactful experience to have right off the bat. But recently, back in February, I changed roles to a company called Super Awesome, which is a kid tech company that's working to make a safer internet for the next generation. And so everything that we do is basically just about building safer spaces online for kids. And so in that role, the thing that kind of attracted me and what I'm doing now that's so vastly different is stepping into the gaming industry and actually building experiences for kids online. So doing similar things, you know, a lot of it relates back to advertising and marketing, but it's all through gaming mediums. So doing activations on Fortnite and Roblox with independent developers to bring brands into that space and make them show up, you know, compliantly, ethically, legally, and really positively in the space for kids. I can definitely say that the London experience definitely helped me get my first job. I know for a fact it did, and I locked that job down probably 6 months ahead of most of my fellow graduates and people that I was studying alongside. So my boss at the time specifically told me the thing that stuck out to her on my resume was my London internship. Thinking back to when I was in London, I think probably the biggest challenges I faced in UMI specifically, it was definitely like getting into the technical pieces of the role that I was doing. I have a very technical brain, but there was some of that like literally developing in HTML that I just had no previous knowledge in, and it was a tough experience to try and like sit down and get into that headspace and learn about that and be able to execute it well, especially coming from like UW-Stevens Point, for example, which is a town of 10,000 people. The university itself is larger than the town, so it's almost culture shock to go from a place so small to a place so large. But it was really cool, really unique. I remember my favorite thing to do when I was here was like just pick a direction and walk, because you could always find your way back on the tube. It's just the best thing. So I think one of the things I do remember actually saying to people when I got back was it was so cool to come to a city that is so diverse in culture and just so rich in culture. I mean, like one of my favorite things to do when I was here was go find different areas that were very prominent with different communities and like just sample food in those areas in the time. And ironically, cheeseburgers were a big hit at the time too. So it was really fun to compare American cheeseburgers to European cheeseburgers. It was a big step for me to be able to like come and do this in the first place. You know, it's really intimidating to go live in a different country for 3 months. Like my entire family lives at the time, they lived within 5 minutes of each other, you know? So to leave everybody, miss the biggest family vacation that we do every year and come spend a summer in London was really intimidating to do. I'm so glad that I did it, but that was definitely an accomplishment to be able to just do that on its own. And then beyond that, I think one of the things that I'm proudest about after the fact is like being able to stay in touch with the people I met here. And those relationships have helped me on in life, whether it's questions about career or just trying to stay up to date on what's going on geopolitically across, the ocean. So it's been really impactful in that sense, and really a big achievement, I think. It's always a little different, especially when like you're traveling a lot. While I was here, I would do long weekends in different countries. So I spent some time in Berlin and Barcelona. And so going on those trips and trying to meet people while you're there too is always a challenge. I was like, it's insane that you can fly for an hour in the US and it'll cost you $300. Here you can fly to an entire different country that's like 50 pounds. I think my advice to anyone thinking about it would honestly be just do it. Like, you won't regret it. And if you do, come talk to me. I want to know why. The most notable place that I can remember is Liverpool Street Station. At the time, our office was right outside of it. There's a McDonald's that's, I'm pretty sure, still there right outside of the station. And we were above it at the time in a co-working space. And so that station is just burned into my memory. And there was a market that I cannot for the life of me remember where it was. But I remember this one being a totally open air like food market. And it looked like literally there was just like a parking lot. There was a vendor there that made these like Brazilian wraps that was probably like the single best thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. And I've had it. It is a mission for me to go find that at some point. So that's part of my plan this weekend. In all honesty, it's probably one of my favorite cities in the world that I've visited. I've been really fortunate to be able to like travel quite a bit, especially in the US, not so much like internationally, but while I was here, I did spend some time in Berlin and some time in Barcelona, went up to Edinburgh. So I've traveled a little bit internationally, but in the US, I've been to New York, San Francisco, Chicago, Seattle, pretty much most of the major cities in the US that come to mind when people think of the US. And I really do think London still stands out to me. I mean, it's like so culturally diverse. It feels relatively inclusive. Like people here are pretty friendly once you get to know them and talk to them a little bit. Ooh, that is a tough one though. I think it was really bittersweet on my last day of work. We had a little like going away party and all went out to dinner and hung out for a little while that evening. I think it would either be that day or the day after that. The day after that was funny because like the immigration laws for the US were coming abroad as a student. I couldn't work past a certain amount of hours. And so I would do like 4-day work weeks. So I always had Fridays off. And I remember stopping in at the office because I was like, well, I'm here, I may as well just come say hi. And everybody's like, what are you doing back here? You're done, you're supposed to be back in America. Exactly, like get out of here, we're sick of you now. That was a really fun day because it was great to just like pop in, see the team, say bye to everybody again, and then just go like spend the day with the other students that I come over with. We'd all just kind of gone out and spent the entire time together out and about in that area. The other one that comes to mind right away, actually, in hindsight, which was probably one of the funniest stories I had. The 4th of July was hilarious because American Independence holiday, which was just an odd thing to see celebrated here in my brain. I was like, I saw it happening and like people were handing out like American flags on the street and like things like that. And I was like, this just seems so weird. But we had such a good time. I remember we were just walking around on 4th of July and that was a little bit of like a homesick day for me because my family does a really big 4th of July vacation every year. So missing that was kind of tough. It was probably one of the harder things on the trip, but ended up out and about at this market, met this random guy who's from, I think, Alabama or Mississippi. Him and I spent the entire day just hanging out. We were just bar hopped around. We taught a bunch of people to play like American drinking games. Like we just had a great time with it. I had a wonderful day that day. That would probably be one of the days I would go back and relive and do it again for sure. Had another time when I was in Barcelona and I worked out like a system that I would go do a Sandeman tour, which everybody go do Sandeman tours when you're traveling. It was like free walking tours is the best way to see a city for the first time. So you'd go do the tour and meet a bunch of people or I would go see like cool historical things that were of interest because I'm a little bit of a history nerd. And then I would do a bar crawl with the hostel I was staying at in the evening and I'd meet a bunch of people. And then the next day I would take whoever I met and we'd just go do other things in the city or explore the city together. I ended up just like sitting on the beach with these 2 guys I'd met from Essex. Just like we literally just sat there and watched the sunrise on the beach and like just had a beer and like just talked about life and had like just really great open honest conversations about everything. It was just like such a great time. And then a guy tried to pickpocket me shortly after. I would definitely say this changed my life. It is like the direct reason I got my first job, like kickstarted my career professionally. It gave me the ability to like really speak confidently about a lot of the things that I do and gave me the confidence to work independently, which was just like the most invaluable thing to every job I've ever had.